The words hit me like a freight train. "You're done here, Marcus." Victoria Ainsworth didn't blink when she said it, just stood there holding my termination letter like yesterday's newspaper. Around the room, nobody would look me in the eye. 15 years of building their AI empire, gone because I missed her networking event. I'm Marcus Sullivan, 52 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I was senior AI engineer at Ainsworth Technologies, the guy they called the algorithm whisperer for 15 years. I gave everything to this company, weekends debugging neural networks, holidays fine-tuning predictive models that made them millions. While others played politics, I built the systems that kept their stock climbing. Victoria Ainsworth built nothing. She's the CEO's 28-year-old daughter, parachuted into VP marketing with an MBA from Stanford and zero real experience. Smart enough, sure, but entitled as hell and obsessed with team culture. Let me back up. This mess started 2 weeks earlier with an email. Mandatory attendance, quarterly team-building event, rooftop bar downtown, Thursday, 7 p.m. I stared at that email for maybe 10 seconds before deleting it. Mandatory team building. Right, I had real work, the final optimization phase of our predictive trading algorithm. This wasn't some side project. This was the core system generating $50 million quarterly revenue. My phone buzzed. Text from my son Jake at UC Berkeley. "Dad, tuition bill came in. $15,000 for spring semester. Can you handle it? Can I handle it?" Kids working part-time at the campus bookstore, pulling 3.8 GPA in computer science, never asks for anything extra. Of course I can handle it. That's what the salary's for. I typed back, "Already transferred. Focus on your finals." The algorithm needed 3 more hours of testing before I could push it live. Victoria's party could wait, or so I thought. Thursday came and went. I stayed until midnight running stress tests and validation protocols. The system performed flawlessly. Response times under 50 milliseconds. Accuracy rates hitting 94.7%. Best numbers we'd ever seen. Friday morning, I walked into work feeling good about myself. The algorithm was ready for Monday's board presentation. Richard Ainsworth, the CEO, would finally see what 15 years of experience could deliver. That's when I found the meeting request. 9 a.m. Conference room A. No agenda. I should have known right then. Walking into that room felt like entering a courtroom. Victoria sat at the head of the table, her father Richard beside her. The HR director lurked in the corner with a thick folder. "Marcus," Victoria said. "Thanks for making time." I pulled out a chair but didn't sit. "What's this about?" She straightened her jacket and smiled, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes. "As of this morning, your employment is terminated. Effective immediately." For a moment, my brain stopped processing. Terminated. I scrambled for reasons. Budget cuts, restructuring, performance issues. But she kept talking. "You've demonstrated a lack of commitment to team culture. Missing Thursday's event wasn't just disappointing, it was unprofessional. We need people who buy into our vision. Team culture." I'd spent 15 years carrying this company's technical infrastructure, built the machine learning platform that analyzed market patterns before anyone else knew what algorithmic trading meant. I was the guy who got called at 2 a.m. when systems crashed, who worked Christmas Eve because some hedge fund needed their models recalibrated. And now I was getting fired for missing a wine mixer. I looked at Richard, waiting for him to say something. We'd worked together for over a decade. He'd personally signed off on every major project I'd delivered, but he just sat there letting his daughter run the show. "This is about the algorithm," I said quietly. "You're launching Monday and you don't want to pay retention bonuses." Victoria's smile turned sharper. "This is about fit, Marcus. Cultural fit. Maybe that's hard to understand for someone who thinks technology matters more than teamwork." The insult just hung there. Someone who thinks technology matters more than teamwork in a tech company that I'd helped build from 50 employees to 2,000. I wanted to tell her exactly what I thought about her leadership skills. Wanted to point out that her biggest accomplishment was redesigning the company logo. But I didn't. Outbursts don't win wars. Silence does. Instead, I nodded once. "I'll need time to transition my projects." "That won't be necessary," the HR director spoke up. "Your access has been revoked. Security will escort you to collect your personal items." Personal items. 15 years. Reduced to whatever fit in a cardboard box. As I walked toward the door, Victoria called out one more time. "Oh, and Marcus? Don't even think about taking any intellectual property with you. Everything you've built belongs to this company." I paused and looked back at her. Young, confident, completely unaware that she'd just made the biggest mistake of her career. "You're absolutely right," I said. "Everything I built does belong to someone. Just maybe not who you think." The elevator doors closed, and for the first time in hours, I smiled. Because Victoria had no idea about the conversation I'd had with Patricia Reynolds 2 years ago. The former CTO who'd seen this exact scenario coming from miles away. Some lessons you can only learn the hard way. Victoria was about to get a masterclass. The envelope was waiting on my desk like an execution order. Cream-colored, company logo embossed, my name typed in bold. Beside it, my monitor displayed one cold sentence: "Your access has been revoked." 15 years of building the strongest AI system in the industry, erased with a single line of text. Around me, the office hummed with forced normalcy. Keyboards clacked, phones rang, but every pair of eyes refused to meet mine. People who once praised me for saving multi-million-dollar contracts suddenly found the floor fascinating. Loyalty was currency that devalued overnight. I slid the envelope open. Termination agreement, 2 pages long. No thank you. No acknowledgement of the billion-dollar architecture I'd designed. Just legal jargon and a final instruction. Return your badge by end of day. I packed slowly. My colleagues whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. What happened? She didn't go to the party. A laugh somewhere behind me. The screen blinked again. A text slid across my phone. Unknown number. Leave the building. Cafe 27. Then a name that stopped my breath. Patricia Reynolds. For a moment the noise blurred into static. Patricia, former CTO, architect of every major acquisition, the woman who knew where the company buried its secrets. 2 years ago she vanished after quiet retirement. No farewell speech, no LinkedIn updates, just gone. My pulse thudded as I slipped the phone into my bag. I didn't hesitate. Badge in hand, envelope under my arm, I walked out without a word. If Patricia Reynolds was reaching out now, it meant one thing. My story wasn't over. It was about to turn into something no Ainsworth could predict. The coffee shop was nearly empty at 2 p.m. Just me, a few college kids with laptops, and Patricia Reynolds sitting in the corner booth like she'd been waiting all day. Patricia looked exactly the same as when she'd left Ainsworth 2 years ago. Silver hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Former CTO, 25 years in tech, smartest person I'd ever worked with. "Marcus," she said, standing to shake my hand. "I heard about Friday." "I'm sorry. Word travels fast. In Silicon Valley? Please." She gestured for me to sit. "Richard called me himself. Wanted to know if I thought you'd cause any trouble." I almost laughed. "What did you tell him?" "That Marcus Sullivan isn't the troublemaking type. Too professional. Too focused on the work." She paused. "But maybe that's changing." The waitress came by. Patricia ordered another coffee. I asked for water. "You know why I wanted to meet," Patricia said once we were alone. "The IP trust. The IP trust." She pulled out a manila folder, thick with legal documents. 2 years ago, when I saw the writing on the wall, Victoria getting promoted over qualified candidates, Richard letting family politics override business sense, I suggested we put some protections in place. I remembered that conversation. Patricia had been cryptic about it, talking about safeguarding key assets and protecting institutional knowledge. I'd signed where she told me to sign, trusting her judgment completely. Didn't think much about it at the time. The Intellectual Property Protection Trust, she continued, established under Delaware law, holds patents and proprietary algorithms developed by senior engineers. Everything you created in the last 8 years, the predictive trading models, the risk assessment frameworks, the neural network architectures that power their entire platform. My water glass stopped halfway to my mouth. "Are you saying..." "I'm saying that trust doesn't belong to Ainsworth Technologies. It belongs to a consortium of engineers who actually built the technology. And as of Friday morning, when they terminated you without cause, those usage rights reverted to the trust." The coffee shop suddenly felt very quiet. "How much are we talking about?" Patricia opened the folder and pulled out a valuation report. Conservative estimate, $750 million. That's just the trading algorithm and associated patents. The machine learning framework that drives their customer analytics platform, add another $150 million. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Nearly $900 million in intellectual property. Technology I'd developed, code I'd written, systems I'd designed and optimized over 15 years. What's the play? I asked. 3 options. Patricia held up her fingers. 1, we license the technology back to Ainsworth at market rates. They keep using it, we collect royalties. Clean, simple, everyone stays happy. Option 2, we revoke their license and shop it to competitors. Quantum Dynamics has been trying to break into algorithmic trading for years. Goldman's tech division would kill for this kind of predictive accuracy. I nodded slowly. Both options would hurt Ainsworth, but not destroy them. And option 3? Patricia's smile was razor thin. We auction it. Public bidding war. Highest offer wins exclusive rights. The implications hit me. Without their core algorithms, Ainsworth's stock price would crater. Their competitive advantage would evaporate overnight. Richard would be explaining to shareholders why their billion-dollar AI platform suddenly belonged to someone else. How long do I have to decide? They don't know yet. Won't know until their lawyers start digging into the patent filings. I'd say a week or 2 before someone notices the ownership structure has changed. I thought about Victoria's smirk as she handed me that termination letter. About Richard sitting silent while his daughter torched 15 years of professional relationship. About Jake's tuition bills and my own retirement account that had taken a beating in the last market downturn. There's something else, Patricia said, pulling out another document. Quantum Dynamics reached out yesterday. Word leaked about your termination. They're interested in hiring you as Chief Innovation Officer. 7-figure package, equity stake, chance to build something new from the ground up. CIO. I'd never even considered titles like that. Always been too focused on the technical work to play corporate ladder games. But the idea of starting fresh, of building systems without Ainsworth's bureaucracy and politics. What do you think I should do? Patricia closed the folder and leaned back. I think you should stop being so polite about everything. You've spent 15 years making other people rich while they treated you like expensive furniture. Time to make some money for yourself. She was right. I'd been the loyal soldier for too long, putting the company's needs ahead of my own. Where had that gotten me? Escorted out by security while a 28-year-old MBA took credit for my work. Option 3, I said. Public auction. Patricia's grin could have powered the building. Now you're talking. I'll make some calls. Tech blogs, industry journals, financial press. By Thursday morning, every major player in the valley will know that Ainsworth's crown jewels are up for sale. We shook hands across the table. One more thing, she said. Richard's going to call you. Probably today. He'll offer you your job back. Maybe a small raise. Definitely a lecture about loyalty and family values. And I should say, tell him you're considering your options. Let him sweat for a few days. Men like Richard think everything has a price. Time to show him how expensive his mistakes really are. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time since Friday, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what I was about to gain. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. How's the job search going, Dad? I typed back. Better than expected. Focus on your studies. Dad's got this handled. And for the first time in 15 years, I really did. The call came exactly when Patricia predicted. 6 p.m., right when Richard knew I'd be home, probably thinking about dinner and feeling sorry for myself. Marcus, his voice was carefully neutral. We should talk. I'm listening. This whole situation got out of hand. Victoria's young, she's learning. Maybe we moved too fast on Friday. I walked out to my backyard looking at the pool I'd barely used in 5 years because I was always at the office. Meaning we'd like you to come back. Same position, 15% raise, and we'll forget this whole thing ever happened. 15%. After 15 years and nearly $1 billion in intellectual property. That's generous, Richard. I think so. You know this company, Marcus. You know the technology better than anyone. We need you. Funny. Friday morning it sounded like you needed team players who bought into the vision. Silence on the other end. When Richard spoke again, his voice had an edge. Look, I'll be straight with you. We've looked into your employment agreement. Any technology developed on company time belongs to us. If you're thinking about taking anything to a competitor, I would never violate my employment agreement, I said, and meant it completely. Good. so we understand each other. Can you start Monday? I watched a hawk circling overhead, patient, methodical, waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. I'm going to need some time to think about it, Richard. This has been a difficult week. How much time? Give me until Friday. I want to make sure I'm making the right decision for everyone involved. After I hung up, I called Patricia. He offered 15%, I told her. She laughed so hard I had to hold the phone away from my ear. 15%, oh Marcus. They really don't have a clue, do they? When do we go public with the auction? Tomorrow morning. TechCrunch is running the story at 9 a.m. Billion-dollar AI portfolio hits market after patent ownership dispute. Should make for interesting reading. By Thursday afternoon, my phone hadn't stopped ringing. Quantum Dynamics, Tesla's AI division, 3 different hedge funds, and a consortium from Singapore I'd never heard of. Everyone wanted to schedule meetings, tour facilities, discuss licensing terms. Victoria called twice. Both times I let it go to voicemail. Both times she sounded less confident than the day before. The real satisfaction came Thursday evening. Financial TV was running the story as their lead segment. Tech industry shakeup as AI pioneer becomes free agent. They showed Ainsworth's stock price, down 12% in after-hours trading. I poured myself a beer and watched the numbers scroll across the screen. Tomorrow would bring the real fireworks. But tonight, for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Friday morning brought chaos. The TechCrunch article had gone viral overnight. Billion-dollar algorithm war, how one engineer could topple Silicon Valley giant. My LinkedIn profile had 500 new connection requests. 3 headhunters called before 8 a.m., but the call I was waiting for came at 9:15. Marcus. Richard's voice was tight. We need to meet. Today. I'm available this afternoon. No. Now. My office. This can't wait. I'll be there in an hour. Walking into Ainsworth Technologies felt strange. Security nodded. They knew me, but I wasn't an employee anymore. The elevator ride to the executive floor seemed longer than usual. Richard's office was exactly the same. Floor-to-ceiling windows, awards covering one wall, family photos scattered across his desk. But Richard looked like he'd aged 5 years in a week. Sit down, he said without looking up from his computer. We have a problem. We? Don't play games, Marcus. I know about the trust. My lawyers spent all night going through the patent filings. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk. And they confirmed what I hoped wasn't true. You own the algorithms. All of them. He finally looked at me. How long have you known? 2 years. Patricia set it up when she saw Victoria getting promoted over more qualified people. Said it was insurance. Richard slumped in his chair. Insurance against what? Against exactly what happened last Friday. We sat in silence for a moment. Through the windows, I could see the Quantum Dynamics building across the valley. My potential new home. What do you want? Richard asked finally. I want you to understand something. You didn't just fire an employee last Friday. You freed your most valuable asset, and now that asset has options. How much will it cost to fix this? I pulled out my phone and showed him the TechCrunch article. Quantum Dynamics offered $750 million for exclusive rights, plus they want me as Chief Innovation Officer, 7-figure salary, equity package, unlimited R&D budget. Richard's face went white. We can't afford $750 million. You can't afford not to. Without the algorithms, your platform becomes worthless overnight. Stock price tanks, customers leave, competitors take your market share. There has to be another way. There is. I leaned forward. Revenue sharing. 15% of all income generated by the algorithms. No upfront payment, just ongoing royalties. 15%? Richard did quick math in his head. That's $7.5 million quarterly, $30 million annually, based on current performance. If the algorithms improve, which they will under proper leadership, that number goes up. And what about your position here? That depends on whether you're serious about change. I want CTO, board seat, $2 million salary plus equity. And Richard, I looked directly at him. Victoria reports to me, not the other way around. His jaw tightened. She's my daughter. She's a VP who just cost you $750 million with a termination decision. Good leaders learn from mistakes. Great leaders don't repeat them. Richard stood and walked to the window. You're asking me to humiliate my own daughter. I'm asking you to save your company. Victoria can stay as VP marketing. She's actually good at that. But technical decisions need to be made by technical people. My phone buzzed. Text message. I glanced at the screen. Quantum dynamics. Final offer expires in 2 hours. I showed Richard the message. Your choice. Work with me or watch me build something better across the street. I need to discuss this with the board. You have until 5 p.m. today. After that, the algorithms go to auction Monday morning. I stood to leave. One more thing. If we do this deal, it gets announced properly. Press conference, industry coverage, full transparency, no more backroom family politics. Walking out of that office, I felt calmer than I had in weeks. For 15 years, I'd been asking for scraps from their table. Now I was setting the menu. At 4:47 p.m., Richard called. We accept your terms, he said without preamble. When can you start? Monday morning. And Richard, next time you want to fire someone for missing a party, maybe check who actually owns the technology first. The press conference was exactly what I'd hoped for. Small but strategic. Tech journalists, business reporters, one camera crew from Bloomberg. Patricia had coached me on staying professional but confident. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard announced, looking like he was swallowing glass. We're pleased to confirm that Marcus Sullivan has rejoined Ainsworth Technologies as Chief Technology Officer. The title still felt strange. 2 weeks ago, I was a senior engineer getting fired for missing a wine mixer. Now I was sitting at the executive table while cameras flashed. A journalist raised her hand. Mr. Sullivan, how does it feel to return in such a different capacity? I looked straight into the camera. It feels like coming home, with a better understanding of my value. After the conference, I met Jake for dinner at that place near campus he liked. Kid was prouder of me than I'd seen him since high school graduation. So let me get this straight, he said, cutting into his steak. You got fired, discovered you owned the patents to everything that made them money, and basically held them hostage until they made you CTO? That's a simplified version, but essentially accurate. Dad, that's incredible. We talked for an hour about everything except work, his girlfriend, his upcoming internship at Google, my plans to finally use that pool. Normal father-son stuff I'd missed too many times over the years. Driving home, I thought about Victoria's last words to me that Friday morning. Don't even think about taking any intellectual property with you. She'd been right about one thing. Everything I'd built did belong to someone. It just took a termination letter for me to realize that someone was me. Patricia called as I pulled into the driveway. Saw the press conference, she said. How does it feel to be CTO of a billion-dollar company? Expensive, I said, and we both laughed. Richard called me this afternoon, wanted to know if I thought you'd hold grudges. What did you tell him? That Marcus Sullivan isn't the grudge-holding type, too professional, too focused on building the future instead of fighting old battles. She was right. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted results. Monday morning, I walked into Ainsworth Technologies as Chief Technology Officer. Victoria was waiting in my new corner office, the one that used to belong to her father before he moved to the executive floor. Marcus, she said, standing as I entered. I wanted to apologize. What happened 2 weeks ago was unprofessional. I set my coffee on the desk and looked out the window at the Silicon Valley skyline. From up here, you could see everything. The Stanford campus where Victoria got her MBA, the quantum dynamics building where I'd almost started a new career, the highway that connected it all. Victoria, I said, turning to face her, we're going to work together for a long time. What happened taught us both something important about how this business really works. Let's focus on what we build from here. She nodded, looking relieved. What's our first priority? I opened my laptop and pulled up the development roadmap I'd been working on since Tuesday. We're going to revolutionize algorithmic trading. Again. And this time, everyone's going to know exactly who built it. The next 6 months passed faster than I'd expected. The revenue sharing agreement worked exactly as planned. Q1 numbers came in at $60 million, 20% higher than previous quarter. My 15% cut was $9 million. Patricia's trust was now generating serious money for all the engineers who'd contributed over the years. But the real satisfaction wasn't financial. It was building something new. With unlimited R&D budget and actual authority, I hired 12 senior engineers from top tech companies. We redesigned the entire platform from scratch. Faster algorithms, better user interface, predictive models that made our previous work look primitive. Victoria, to her credit, adapted quickly. Turned out she was actually good at marketing when she wasn't trying to manage technical people. Our rebranding campaign generated more buzz than anything Ainsworth had done in years. The breakthrough came in March. My team developed an AI model that could predict market movements with 97.3% accuracy, numbers nobody in the industry had ever seen. We filed 15 new patents in Marcus Sullivan's name, properly this time. Richard started treating me like a partner instead of an employee. Board meetings became strategy sessions where my recommendations carried real weight. The company's stock price had recovered from the February dip and was hitting all-time highs. But the moment that really mattered came on a Tuesday afternoon in April. I was debugging code when Victoria knocked on my office door. "Marcus, there's someone here to see you." A kid walked in, maybe 22, nervous as hell, wearing a cheap suit that didn't quite fit. Resume in hand, eyes wide with the kind of hunger I remembered from my own early days. "Mr. Sullivan," he stammered, "I'm David Miller, computer science graduate from San Jose State. I know you're probably busy, but I've studied all your work. The 2019 paper on neural network optimization changed how I think about machine learning." I gestured for him to sit. "What can I do for you, David? I want to work here. I know I don't have experience like the other candidates, but I'm willing to learn. I'll work weekends, nights, whatever it takes." I looked at his resume. 3.9 GPA, internship at a startup nobody had heard of, side projects that showed real creativity. Reminded me of myself 25 years ago, talented, hungry, and completely overlooked by the big companies. "David," I said, "let me tell you something. Experience matters, but passion matters more. The best engineers I know weren't the ones with perfect resumes. They were the ones who stayed late because they loved solving problems." I hired him that afternoon, started him on the neural network team with a salary 40% higher than market rate for new graduates, because I remembered what it felt like to be undervalued. 6 months later, when Fortune magazine ran their cover story about the AI revolution in financial technology, my picture was on the front page. The article called me the engineer who owned Silicon Valley. The piece detailed everything: the termination, the IP trust, the negotiation that saved Ainsworth while making me rich. But what I was proudest of wasn't the money or the title. It was the quote from David Miller, who'd just been promoted to senior engineer. Marcus Sullivan doesn't just build great technology, he builds great engineers. He sees potential where others see problems. That night I called Patricia to thank her. "For what?" she asked. "For teaching me that loyalty isn't about accepting whatever they offer. It's about knowing your worth and demanding they recognize it." "And what have you learned about power, Marcus?" I thought about Victoria, now thriving in her proper role, about David and the other young engineers I'd hired and mentored, about the revenue-sharing checks that kept growing every quarter. "Real power isn't about controlling people," I said. "It's about creating value they can't afford to lose." 2 years later, Ainsworth Technologies was acquired by Microsoft for $4.2 billion. My equity stake was worth $180 million. Patricia's trust collected another $50 million in acquisition bonuses, but the number that mattered most was different. 23 engineers from my team got recruited by major tech companies in the months after the acquisition. Every one of them knew their worth. Every one of them negotiated from strength. Because I'd learned something that took me 15 years to understand. Your value isn't determined by people who fail to see it. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's simple. You're not disposable. You're not replaceable. And when the world tries to write you out of the story, that's your cue to pick up the pen yourself. Know your worth. Protect your work. Build relationships with people who recognize talent. And never, ever let someone else control your future. The Marcus Sullivan who got fired for missing a party was loyal to the wrong things. The Marcus Sullivan who became CTO learned to be loyal to himself first. That's the only lesson that matters. And if you're reading this thinking it could never happen to you, that you don't have the leverage or the connections or the patents, remember this. Patricia Reynolds saw potential in a quiet engineer and spent 2 years building a safety net he didn't even know existed. Your safety net might look different. Maybe it's skills nobody else has. Maybe it's relationships you've built over time. Maybe it's knowledge that's valuable to the right buyer, but it's there. You just have to stop accepting less than you're worth long enough to find it. The best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead. Trust me on that one.